We've done a lot of on these trips. We've blown a lot of stuff up. I've ran a lot of different equipment. I don't think anything compares to this.
Parker Schnabel just bought a historic gold mine in Bolivia, and you won't believe what led up to it. Parker and his crew were on a difficult journey, making their way through the rough landscapes of South America. Their current mission had them at a critical point, the gateway to Bolivia.
Hopefully these guys will lighten up to us a bit more and kind of let us see the operation and see what's going on here. That's my main goal right now.
The gateway to Bolivia. The crew's rented car couldn't make the full trip, so they were forced to leave it behind in Peru. With their destination in sight, they prepared for the next step of their adventure, crossing through a 160-yard strip of no man's land on foot. As they crossed the border, there was a palpable sense of excitement. This wasn't your everyday border crossing. This was Bolivia, a country rich in history and mystery. With smiles and relief, Parker and his crew were officially in Bolivia, ready to continue their quest. Once they entered Bolivia, Diego, a trusted local contact, had arranged for the team to pick up a new vehicle, allowing them to press on. Peru had been incredible, but Parker knew that Bolivia would bring them to one of the most thrilling parts of their expedition. They were moving deeper into the unknown, where the true adventure awaited. Parker acknowledged the uncertainty of the journey ahead, unsure of where they'd end up or what they might discover. But this unknown only added to the excitement.
There you go, Dan.
Oh, there you go.
The team was hopeful. They had already uncovered promising gold in the Peruvian town of La Rinconada, and now they were heading even further south, following the veins of gold that stretched across the region. Their route would take them on an 8-hour journey across the vast, remote landscape of the Altiplano Plateau. This area felt isolated and untamed, perfect for their gold hunting mission. Their destination was Puyo Puyo, a frontier town located on the same gold-rich quartz veins that fed La Rinconada. For thousands of years, these veins had eroded, sending traces of gold washing across the high plains of the Altiplano. This ancient geological activity made Puyo Puyo a prime location for gold prospecting, and Parker was eager to begin. He mentioned the plan to the crew. They needed to put their ear to the ground, talk to local prospectors, and see what they could uncover. Parker was excited by the challenge, admitting that it felt like they were following breadcrumbs and piecing the puzzle together as they went. It was a spontaneous journey, with no clear roadmap, but that's what made it so exciting. Arrival in Puyo Puyo. As they arrived in Puyo Puyo, Parker and his team prepared to jump out and get to work.
¿Cómo está?
Buenas tardes.
Yo soy Diego, mucho gusto.
¿Qué tal? Buenas tardes, hermano.
Soy Parker.
Segundino.
Segundino, his name is Segundino.
They were determined to explore as many mining areas as possible, even though they were essentially making up the plan as they went. Parker knew this risky shoot-from-the-hip approach might backfire, but he was willing to take that chance for the possibility of striking gold. As Parker and the crew arrived in Puyo Puyo, they couldn't help but marvel at how remote and isolated this little town was. It felt as though they had truly reached the middle of nowhere. After spending 4 weeks exploring the rich gold veins of Peru, Parker and his team were finally in the highlands of Bolivia, standing in the frontier mining town of Puyo Puyo. The town was small and simple, yet it held a sense of mystery and possibility. Parker was eager to tap into the local knowledge, hoping that someone in this remote area might know more about the hidden gold resources. He had one goal: to find leads on his next mining venture. Bolivia was known for its abundance of gold, and Parker felt excited to get back to the core of what these expeditions were all about: hunting for gold in areas untouched by large-scale operations. Parker and Diego decided to split off from the group, intent on finding someone who could point them in the right direction. They approached a local man, hoping he could provide valuable insights into the area's mining activities. As they struck up a conversation, the man shared interesting bits of information. He spoke of the Spanish conquistadors who had come to these lands centuries ago, chasing after the same treasure Parker sought now: gold. Parker noticed the landscape around them, filled with gravel and rock formations, which suggested that the area had been rich in gold deposits for generations. He asked the man if he did any mining himself, to which the man responded with a nod. He was indeed a gold miner, panning for gold in the rivers and streams near the town. When Parker asked about the man's secret spot,
Quiere conocer tu lugar secreto.
No, no tengo secreto allá.
Ah,
the miner simply smiled, offering no clear answers. Some things, it seemed, were too precious to reveal. Nonetheless, Parker was determined to give it a try. He and his team decided to head toward the edge of town, where they could begin their search for Bolivian gold. In a place like this, Parker explained, prospectors often start by panning in creeks, searching for float gold, small particles of gold that have been carried downstream. Finding float gold can be a good indicator that there's much more substantial gold waiting to be discovered further up the river. With this plan in mind, Parker and his crew got to work, their hopes high that Bolivia's rough landscape would soon reveal its hidden treasures. The hunt for gold had only just begun. The search for gold continues. As Parker and the team continued their search for gold in Puyo Puyo, they observed the muddy ground around them. Parker knew from experience that muddy conditions weren't the most promising sign when prospecting for gold. The soil didn't have that familiar golden sheen, and as they panned through the mud, there wasn't much to show for their efforts. Parker's hopes dimmed as he examined the pan, finding nothing of value. "Yellow rock," he commented, but it wasn't the precious metal they were after. The pan was empty, and though they knew there had to be gold somewhere in the area, their search had come up short for now. Despite the lack of immediate success, Parker remained optimistic, determined to push forward. Soon after, Parker and Diego regrouped with the others. "How did it go?" asked one of the crew members. Parker shook his head, admitting they hadn't seen a single flake of gold. It was disappointing, but not entirely unexpected. Prospecting is full of ups and downs, and today was proving to be one of those tougher days. Still, Parker wasn't ready to give up.
more gold going upstream. Can you ask him that?
Más río arriba hay más oro y más grande.
He pointed across the way to a lady wearing a hat, suggesting they might get some helpful information from her. Perhaps she or someone nearby could throw them a bone. Any lead would be valuable at this point. Their fortunes seemed to change when they met a local miner. The man was currently working with gold and was kind enough to show Parker and the team what he had found. As they gathered around, the miner pulled out a small nugget of gold, a glimmering piece of the treasure they had been searching for. "No way!" Parker exclaimed, eyes wide with excitement. It was a small nugget, but it was gold nonetheless, proof that they were in the right area. The miner told them he had more and showed them his collection of gold pieces. Parker was amazed as the man explained where he had found the gold, across the river, in a place known as the Golden Eagle area. Eager to learn more, Parker asked if the miner could show them exactly where he had been working. This was the break they had been waiting for. Parker and his crew were now more determined than ever to follow this lead and see if they could uncover gold in the same spot. They had found someone who was not only willing to show them the gold, but was also taking them directly to a mine. This felt like a huge win for the crew, as they now had a real shot at uncovering the treasure they had been chasing. The hard work and uncertainty were starting to pay off, and the next phase of their journey was about to begin. Parker Schnabel's early start in mining. Parker was not just any young kid with a dream of striking it rich. Growing up in Haines, Alaska, he was surrounded by mining from an early age. His grandfather, John Schnabel, owned the famous Big Nugget Mine, a small but productive mining operation. Parker spent his childhood summers learning the ropes from his grandfather, gaining valuable knowledge about gold mining techniques and the challenges of the business. By the time he was just 16 years old, Parker was put in charge of the Big Nugget Mine.
You know, I'm prepared to throw everything we made last year into it, but that means, obviously, we need better ground.
At such a young age, he was handling not just the physical work of mining, but also the management aspects, like dealing with equipment, crew members, and making decisions that could mean the difference between success and failure. It was a big responsibility, but Parker was more than capable of stepping up to the challenge. He chose to forego college, using his college fund to invest in his first mining season. This decision showed his commitment to the mining industry, and it turned out to be a wise one. The start of Gold Rush. Parker's risk paid off in his first full season running the mine independently. He and his team managed to extract nearly 1,000 ounces of gold, which earned him about $55,000, a big amount for a young miner. This early success caught the attention of the producers of Gold Rush, a Discovery Channel reality show that followed different miners trying to strike it rich in the gold fields. Parker quickly became a fan favorite due to his work ethic, leadership skills, and dedication to mining. Over the seasons, viewers saw Parker grow not just as a miner, but also as a leader. His operation expanded, and his goals grew loftier. With each season, he set higher targets for gold production. While most miners would be satisfied with extracting a few hundred ounces of gold, Parker constantly pushed the limits, aiming for thousands of ounces. His competitive spirit and ambition made him stand out on Gold Rush. Challenges and setbacks in the Klondike. While Parker's success on the show is well documented, mining is not without its setbacks. One of the biggest challenges Parker faced came during his time in the Klondike, one of the most famous gold mining regions in the world. Despite its rich history, the Klondike is a difficult place to mine.
I think right now he's on this property coming up here at Dean Russell's Dominion Gold Resources.
The harsh weather, remote location, and challenging terrain make it a tough environment, even for experienced miners like Parker. During one of his seasons in the Klondike, Parker faced multiple mechanical breakdowns, logistical issues, and a dwindling supply of land to mine. Mining in the Klondike requires careful planning, not just in terms of where to dig, but also in how to get the necessary equipment into the region, and how to manage a crew in such a remote location. The stress of managing these elements began to weigh on Parker, and at one point, he even questioned whether it was worth continuing. Despite the challenges, Parker's resilience shone through. He didn't give up and managed to extract a significant amount of gold. His perseverance is one of the key reasons he has become such a successful miner at a young age. The Guyana disaster. One of Parker's most infamous mining adventures took place in Guyana, South America. Guyana was supposed to be an exciting new frontier for Parker and his crew. The jungles of Guyana are rich in gold, but they are also incredibly difficult to mine. The heat, humidity, and dense vegetation create an environment that is almost impossible to work in, and Parker quickly realized that mining in Guyana was going to be far more difficult than he had anticipated. The crew faced countless setbacks during their time in Guyana. Equipment constantly broke down, the heavy rains turned roads into mud pits, and the jungle itself seemed to work against them at every turn. To make matters worse, the local regulations and politics made it difficult for Parker to set up a proper mining operation. After weeks of hard work, Parker's team came up empty-handed, with no gold to show for their efforts. The trip was a major disappointment, but it also taught Parker valuable lessons about the unpredictability of mining.
Looks like pretty good ground too, but that's the best layer right at the bottom. You did a lot of shoveling to get there, huh?
Success in the Yukon. While Guyana was a disaster, Parker's work in the Yukon has been much more successful. The Yukon is one of the richest gold regions in the world, and it has been the site of some of Parker's most significant gold finds. Over the course of several seasons on Gold Rush, Parker's operation in the Yukon has expanded dramatically. He has invested in larger equipment, hired more workers, and mined more ground than ever before. In one of his best seasons, Parker managed to extract over 6,000 ounces of gold, worth millions of dollars. This success not only solidified his reputation as one of the top miners on Gold Rush, but also allowed him to invest even more in his mining operations. Parker's work in the Yukon continues to be a major part of his mining career, and it has helped him build a substantial fortune. Mining philosophy and work ethic. One of the things that sets Parker apart from other miners is his relentless work ethic. While many miners would be content with modest success, Parker is always looking for ways to improve his operation and increase his gold production. He is known for pushing his crew to their limits, often working long hours and demanding the best from everyone involved in the mining operation. This approach has earned him both admiration and criticism from his crew members. Parker's philosophy on mining is simple. To be successful, you have to be willing to take risks and put in the hard work. He believes that mining is not just about finding gold, but also about managing the business side of the operation. This includes making smart investments, managing costs, and always looking for new opportunities. Parker's approach has clearly paid off as he continues to be one of the most successful miners on Gold Rush. Parker's trail. In addition to his work on Gold Rush, Parker has also been involved in another project called Parker's Trail.
I feel like this could be one of the most nuts places we've ever visited.
I feel like I'm going to really enjoy this.
This spin-off series follows Parker as he retraces the steps of famous gold rush explorers. One of the most intense adventures on Parker's Trail was his journey along the Klondike Trail, where thousands of miners once risked their lives in search of gold. The trail is notorious for its harsh conditions, including freezing temperatures and rough terrain. During his time on the trail, Parker faced many of the same challenges that the original miners did. The freezing cold, lack of food, and physical exhaustion pushed him and his crew to their limits. However, Parker's determination and leadership helped them complete the journey, and the experience gave him a new appreciation for the hardships that early gold miners faced. New frontiers in Australia. In recent years, Parker has expanded his mining operation to Australia, one of the richest gold-producing regions in the world. Australia's gold fields are vast, and the country has a long history of gold mining. For Parker, mining in Australia is an exciting new challenge, as the terrain and regulations are different from what he is used to in the Yukon. However, he has already had some success in Australia, extracting significant amounts of gold. Parker's move to Australia is part of his larger strategy to diversify his mining operations. By exploring new regions and investing in new opportunities, Parker is positioning himself for long-term success in the industry. His work in Australia is still in the early stages, but it has the potential to be just as successful as his work in the Yukon. The future. As Parker looks to the future, he faces both opportunities and challenges. The gold mining industry is constantly evolving, and new technologies and regulations are changing the way miners operate. Parker has always been at the forefront of these changes.
I think this run was mostly ditches, wasn't it?
Yeah. Ditch and gravel.
Investing in new equipment and staying up to date on the latest mining techniques. One of the biggest challenges Parker faces is the environmental impact of mining. Gold mining can have a significant impact on the environment, and there is increasing pressure on miners to operate in a more sustainable and responsible way. Parker has acknowledged these challenges and has said that he is committed to finding ways to minimize the environmental impact of his mining operations. At just 30 years old, Parker has already built an impressive legacy in the world of gold mining. He has mined millions of dollars worth of gold, led his own mining operation, and become a household name thanks to his work on Gold Rush. However, Parker's success is not just about the gold he has mined. It's also about his leadership, work ethic, and determination. Adventure in Bolivia. Bolivia is the latest chapter in Parker's relentless pursuit of gold, adventure, and understanding the mining world. This time, his travels took him and his team deep into the remote highlands of Bolivia, a place that presents new challenges and opportunities. After spending weeks mining in Peru, Parker and his crew made their way to the small, isolated mining town of Puyo Puyo, a place far off the beaten path, surrounded by mountains and covered in a rich historical narrative of gold mining. Puyo Puyo is an area steeped in mining tradition, dating back to the time of the Spanish conquistadors. As Parker arrived in this unique and rugged location, he couldn't help but be fascinated by its history and its potential for gold. His curiosity led him to explore the rich, gold-laden hills that had once drawn miners from all over the world. For Parker, it was a chance to get back to his roots. Small-scale prospecting, panning in streams, and chasing rumors of untapped gold veins. During his time in Bolivia, Parker and his crew faced a familiar mix of challenges.
That is the coolest dredge I've ever seen.
Yeah.
The pontoons are just two inner tubes.
The environment was harsh, with muddy terrain, rocky landscapes, and difficult access to equipment. Bolivia's remote locations make it hard to transport heavy machinery and supplies, forcing miners to work with whatever tools they can bring along. For Parker, this was both a test of his adaptability and a reminder of how mining has always been a tough, gritty industry. One of the more fascinating parts of Parker's experience in Bolivia was his interaction with the local miners. These small-scale miners, or panners, have spent their lives working the rivers and hills of Bolivia, searching for gold in the most traditional ways. In a remote village, Parker met one such miner who showed him a small nugget of gold he had panned from a nearby creek. It was a modest find, but it was a sign that there was still gold to be found in the region. As Parker's crew continued their exploration, they also searched for larger mining operations. While they didn't strike it rich during their first days of prospecting in Bolivia, they learned valuable lessons about the region and its mining potential. Parker knows that sometimes gold is elusive, but persistence, hard work, and careful planning can eventually lead to success. His experiences in Bolivia, like those in other parts of the world, taught him that mining is as much about patience and understanding the land as it is about technology and manpower. Bolivia's landscape, rich history, and the sheer challenge of working in such remote conditions left a lasting impression on Parker and his team. It wasn't just about the gold this time. It was about the experience of mining in one of the most rugged and least explored regions of the world. Parker's curiosity about new frontiers, both geographically and historically, is what continues to drive him forward, and his time in Bolivia is a perfect example of that.